Combi-melta is kind of disappointing. This thing isn't really any better than the relic bolt rifles. Oof. You only get 8 melta shots, and they can't even be replenished by Emperor's Vengeance at all. Oh, that's not good. That is not good. I was kind of tempted to get this, to be completely honest. But that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. It really should be regenerated by Emperor's Vengeance. That's definitely overlooked. And to be honest, since we're, in September, I think, since the devs are back from summer vacation, I would expect a hotfix at some point. I think this is a very reasonable hotfix. Overall, when it comes to heroic weapons, I have seen some disappointment. So we are going to go into that. We're going to go into the feedback for heroic weapons. But as far as the combi-melta, let's see what else they have to say about it. I honestly think that the grenade launcher version might be better. Disappointed that I wasted my points for this. Yeah, because exactly. You only get a week to get a heroic weapon, technically. The reason I say technically is because you can play on console. You can play on a different account, right? But obviously, that's not a real solution. So this is unfortunate. This is unfortunate. When we were talking about heroic weapons, I picked up the Xenoblade. The Xenoblade is cool, and it is pretty good. I would say it is better than the balanced variant of the Power Sword, at least in my opinion. When I used a balanced Power Sword, I was pretty disappointed in it. So the fact that the Power Rake is just a little bit better, I think does make a difference. It is pretty interesting how just like a small buff can mean a lot in this game, because if you hit a certain breakpoint, things just get a lot easier. As far as the combi-melta, that's pretty bad. At the very least, maybe you can bring it out in siege mode and then just pick up ammo boxes. Maybe use spare power, use the ammo boxes to get your cooldown back. I think that's a fair way to circumvent this issue. At least it's not very satisfying, I get that, but you can still bring out the combi-melta for siege mode. So that's okay. But yeah, we're going to go into another post of somebody mentioning their grievances, their criticisms for heroic tier weapons. And I do relay the questions to you guys if you think heroic weapons should be buffed. So, are any of the heroic weapons worth it? I've seen a pretty consistent sentiment from this sub on two things. The hard stratagem is very difficult, unfun, and that the new weapons are underwhelming. Yeah, dude, I will admit, even though I do have a different account on console, I'm probably not going back to do that hard stratagem this week. I will do the normal one, most likely, eventually. But yeah, I mean, it will give me an opportunity to try out some more heroics. But at the very least, I'm going to do the other hard stratagems before I ever go back to Shadows of the Warp with the Invincible Lictor. Dude, insane. It is a great experience if you want something difficult, like extremely difficult. But yeah, we will see what they have in store for next week, though. I imagine there's going to be something crazy. I don't want to bash my head against this stratagem for a few hours just to end up disappointed by what my choice is, so what should I go for? So he did mention that the common sentiment here is that the new weapons are underwhelming. I think that's a fair way to address it. I do think people really thought these were going to be like 2 times as powerful, maybe somewhere within the range of 2 times as powerful and like 50% stronger or something. I don't know. Regardless, everyone did kind of get the idea that the new heroic weapons were going to be a lot stronger than what we have now. So I wanted to go into the comments to see how people feel about this and see what can be adjusted. At the very least, I think the Xenoblade is worth getting. I do want to see some other heroic weapons that they have in store, but that will be obviously down the line. I have seen some people talk about the bolt pistol as well. Some people are confused if it's actually doing 3 times as much damage, but I have noticed that people mentioned that it does feel noticeably stronger than a bolt pistol, so that's at least pretty good. That was the other one I was going to get, but yeah, regardless, let's go into the comments. Let's see the criticism and the feedback for heroic weapons. From what I have seen so far, chose the multi-melta as people I have seen with different weapons. New weapons aren't underwhelming, neither overwhelming. They just give you a bit of a different playstyle variation. people are probably underwhelmed by them because they expected heroic tier to be stronger, but instead it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit of a different take on standard versions or relic versions, but fair. I would say go for the option that seems the most fun, cool to you. I agree with that. You can eventually unlock them all anyway. He's right about that. Eventually, even though it's going to take a while. We will also talk about the economy, but ultimately, I will say, just right off the bat, I do think they should buff some of the rewards. Maybe a double buff weekend or something. Who knows? I do think they should have buffed. I think it's accolades. But yeah, I mean, honestly, with this considered, if you did spend your heroic points, if you spend your accolades, if you spend your currency on cosmetics, I wouldn't blame you. They look really, really good. I mean, that's pretty much why I'm doing stratagems right now. I do find stratagems to be more fun than operations at the moment. Even the hard variants of stratagems, like the dailies, there's a lot of fun stuff there. So every day you should like kind of check out to see if there's something that it will be a hard tier stratagem, but at the same time there might not be a condition that's a negative effect that is, relevant to you. You could essentially circumvent some of the negative effects in hard mode stratagems if you just pick the right build. So I do think I do think they should buff the economy overall, though, just to get people more excited to grind, man. That's the only thing about this game sometimes that I feel like kind of deflates it. Like, it's in a great spot right now, but sometimes people are just a little bit disappointed at the grind. However, I don't ultimately mind grinding and getting a reward for the time you put in, like actually earn it. I don't mind that at all. But I do think it needs to be a little bit more fair to the people who are actually punching above their weight. Like, there's plenty of people who are probably thinking about jumping into hard mode who never done lethal or absolute, who are starting to do lethal, starting to do normal stratagems and stuff, but they probably get put off because they just don't know how worth it's going to be to get good at this game. I will say it is very fun. The game's in a really great spot right now. I don't mind the grind because I'm having fun. And I am just having fun jumping into hard stratagems that have some goofy conditions and everything. But still, I would like for more people to be excited to get heroic tier stuff. From the sounds of everyone's impressions, most of the heroic weapons aren't better than the guns we already had. People were so worried about them being overpowered, and all of them are just mid, with the Xenophase being the best, but still technically weaker than the block relic power sword. I mean, I guess. Honestly, I wouldn't compare it to a blocking weapon. I just wouldn't. Like, the Xenophase blade is such a... I don't want to call it a one-trick pony, but it's kind of really good at what it does. You know what I mean? If you just want to do power rakes and also have the chance to parry, I think the Xenophase blade is your best bet. However, those balance parries, man, sometimes... I will admit, the Xenophase blade should have had a better parry. Like, just from base. If you consider, like, heroic weapons. Like a fencing one with a strong power rake, you can still do that with a fencing power sword. It's kind of weird that the Xenophase blade just puts itself into a position to limit itself. That's the one thing about heroic weapons that I think the devs should take a look at, is to just, if there's a limitation on a heroic tier weapon, there really shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. In the sense that, like, the combi-melta can't refill ammo from Emperor's Vengeance. That shouldn't be the case. The bolt pistol. If the bolt pistol 3 burst fire is actually only double the damage, that's unfortunate. It should be triple the damage. The bolt pistol really isn't even that great. A triple damage bolt pistol, a heroic tier, I think actually earns the right to be heroic, but it like just crosses the line, in my opinion. So like buffing the burst bolt pistol, I think would be a great idea. And then obviously with the Xenophase blade, we just talked about it, the fencing variant probably should be a thing. But overall, I'm still very happy with the blade. And I think this is a good conversation to have, considering we do have a chance to see a hotfix. At least this month, maybe. I would hope to see a hotfix. I would also hope to see the devs' reaction to this. This is going to be a very interesting community update, to be completely honest, for this month. But yeah, overall, I definitely want to see how you guys feel about heroic weapons. For me, I'm very happy with my choice. I do want to get enough heroic points to get the burst bolt pistol. I will be getting that one day eventually, on console or on PC, whatever. But still, I will admit, I'm definitely a little bit more excited to use my accolades, my rewards, my currency for stratagems. I would likely be using them for cosmetics moving forward, but we will see. We will see. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Let me know in the comments if you have any interesting buff ideas for these heroic tier weapons. And thanks for watching.